There was more to Ferrari's victory in Barcelona than meets the eye. Yes, we had a revitalised Lewis Hamilton and a major aerodynamic upgrade package. But John, there was something else, wasn't there? In plain sight, on four corners of the car.
Yeah, this is a fascinating hidden war that has emerged in Formula One. One of the core components of Lewis Hamilton's victory against Mercedes last weekend wasn't just downforce of the car, it was tyre management. For the first time this season, Ferrari was able to match Mercedes on tyres. Earlier this season, they could get the lead, but they would drop back. Couldn't run as long, couldn't run as quick on the tyres. But Barcelona, a challenging track, a hot track, Ferrari was able to match the Mercedes almost to the 10th. It was critical to the victory. And it subsequently emerged that while downforce was a key factor in helping look after those tyres, Ferrari also ran some new wheel rims. So wheel rims has emerged as a quite interesting hidden development war that's taken place in Formula One, because Ferrari's not the only one that's working on this.
Exactly, and the important thing to remember here is that wheel rims were a spec part under the previous reg set. Now they're open again. Now this is a war it's not new, but it's been brought back to life, hasn't it?
Yeah, this is all about tyre temperature management. Teams want to do various things, primarily keep the rear tyres as cool as possible, pull the tyres into the operator window, you don't overheat them, you don't overstress them, much better. The fronts is a different game, can depend on the track, but some tracks like Monaco, for example, even Montreal when it was cold, you actually want to warm up the fronts, get some temperature in it, get into the operator temperature, plenty of bite and grip. So teams have always been experimenting with this. We saw last season with McLaren with standard rims, it had mastered the brake drum, all the brake ducts, the cooling, the airflow, and had been brilliant. Now we've moved to bespoke rims, every team's doing their own things. They're pushing hard, and even Pirelli's noticed quite a big difference in terms of how the temperatures are being managed, how the tyre pressures are being managed, and that seems to have manifested itself in what we saw in Barcelona.
And this is an aerodynamic war. Yes, it's not a conventional aerodynamic war, but obviously you've got the rotating wheels, you've got all the brake ducts going on, there's a lot going on there. You are limited on the wheel rims, there's limitations in terms of materials, it's got to be one of two magnesium alloys, and with some of the advances in materials science, you could do some astoundingly expensive and complicated things with materials, but you are very much operating in a tight box, but there's still ways that you can work with this to make things work better for you, to control those temperatures. But it's not an unfettered war, is it? We're not going to see Ferrari bringing a new wheel rim to every race or anything, are we?
No, there are two aspects here. First of all, it is about manipulation of airflow. So teams are trying to get the airflow across the car, over the side pods and the floor, into the brake ducts. Then you're sucking that air. You want to get that cold air into the brake drums, cool the brakes down, and pull it out before it gets too hot. Get the hot air out and the cold air in. And then you're manipulating the airflow around the drums, between the rims. And what these rims are doing, they've got pockets in, you're maximising the surface area. You're trying to dissipate the heat. So you want to try and maximise getting that cold air that exists inside, get the hot air away from the tyres in itself. Try not to get too much hot air in there. Try and keep that inner area as cool as possible. And teams are playing around tiny differences. You're manipulating the airflow as it goes around. You're trying to get all this air to do what you want it to do, whether it's to warm up the fronts, cool down the rears, you can do it. Pirelli's well aware that this was possible. The FIA is well aware that this was possible, and they don't want a full-on development war. You don't want teams having a wheel rim for the Monaco Grand Prix, a different one for Barcelona, then a different one for Silverstone. So there are some set regulations. So teams have to have one set that is homologated each time. That has to go then. Drawings have to be sent to Pirelli. The tyres, actual rims, have to get sent to the Pirelli factory. They have to check that their tyres can fit them properly. There's no safety questions, all the beads, all correct, all those sort of elements. So it's a slow process. You can't keep swapping it around. But Ferrari's made this first step in Spain. We understand Red Bull could be next as early as the Austrian Grand Prix. And I'm sure once teams realise that there are performance gains to be had from this, others will be looking at this as well.
And there will be some people watching thinking, oh, tyres, it shouldn't be about that. But they attach the car to the track, so it's so important. There is an enormous amount of performance to be had from managing this well. And then, of course, the teams have got the challenge of doing it within a cost cap. Obviously, it requires lots of CFD work in order to do it. So it's another area where teams will have to make a decision whether that's something that they invest in or not. But while it's open, it's going to be a logical thing to invest in because it's universally beneficial, and the better you understand it, the more you can play tunes on it.
Absolutely. The difference is I spoke to Pirelli's chief engineer, Simone Berra, about this in Barcelona. And Pirelli said it's been so obvious, the difference between what teams were limited by with the standard wheel rims. You'd have your tyre pressure difference was going up by 2 to 3 psi between starting pressure and stabilised pressure. The hotter temperatures, so you're talking 20 to 30 degrees more. So it was shifting up. This season, with teams bespoke, they've pulled it down. It's 1.5, maybe even as little as 1 psi is going up, which equates to 10 to 15 degrees. So you've pulled it down 15 degrees, and that can be the difference between being in the temperature window, being outside it. And the second you fall outside it, the tyres slide more, get more temperature in, and it becomes a vicious circle. So there are differences there, and if teams can see this is a way to pull it down, and Ferrari's benefit may be, 1, 2, 3 degrees centigrade, but that can be the difference between being in the window and out the window, and it's very, very important.
Today's video is brought to you by the Armour All Podium Series, a premium line of car cleaning, detailing and air freshening products made in collaboration between Armour All and Oracle Red Bull Racing. Engineered with precision and expertise featuring SiO2-based hybrid ceramic technology, the Armour All Podium Series products are formulated to meet the elite performance standards of Oracle Red Bull Racing, so you can achieve podium-worthy results on your vehicle at home. Fans of the race have had a chance to try the Armour All Podium Series products on their cars, and they said the results are incredible. From the tyre shine to the interior detailer and spray wax, this line has everything you need to clean and detail your vehicle like the Oracle Red Bull Racing team. The Armour All Podium Series is available now online and in store. Find out where to buy and more information at armourallpodiumseries.com. The Armour All Podium Series, the world's most elite car care.
And of course, it's important to remember too that we often talk about tyre surface temperature, but there's far more to it than that. There's carcass temperature, the temperature kind of in the compound, if you like. The surface is part of that system, and you can put a lot of heat energy in by spiking it on the surface, but there is so much going on. So even though it might seem counterintuitive to people who are thinking about the tyre on the track, actually that heat regime from the inside is incredibly, incredibly complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the core strengths that McLaren had last year. It mastered that brake drum. Rivals were scratching their heads, and it triggered some wild theories about tyre water and maybe drinks bottled water going in to cool the tyres, because teams couldn't understand how they'd managed to do it. The rear brake drums are very different this year, bigger hybrid elements. You're harvesting a lot more. The discs themselves are smaller. Teams are juggling how big they need to go. We've seen this with Ferrari. The suggestions, it's been quite conservative with big rear discs that aren't great for low energy circuits like Monaco. Maybe it was better for Barcelona, for example. So they can see the benefits, and tyres, it may be an element that gets a lot of talking about and people get frustrated by, but it still can deliver so much lap time. And as Lewis Hamilton showed in Barcelona, if you can nail the tyres and you've got a car that's every bit of a match for somebody else, that's the difference between winning a race and not winning.
Yeah, it doesn't escape notice. It was a high-deg race, difficult conditions, and that relentless race pace from Lewis Hamilton was absolutely essential. So he was part of it. The aerodynamics of the car, the conventional aerodynamics, they were part of it, but let's not overlook the tyres. The question is, John, will this be allowed to continue? We had standard wheel rims before. The FIA doesn't always like this sort of thing happening, so is this going to continue, or could we see action?
From what I understand, there's a watching brief from the FIA and Pirelli. They're aware it's happening. They've noticed the differences, and obviously Ferrari has now started this upgrade element. I think what the FIA doesn't want to see is a full-scale development war where teams are bringing different rims every 2 or 3 races, because it just forces everyone to do this. They want to keep things under control, even under a cost cap. From what I understand, they're observing the situation. They don't see cause for alarm at the moment. But I understand that for 2027, they're going to take another deep look at this. Maybe there'll be some guidelines of what is allowed, isn't allowed, maybe some fresh restrictions. Maybe you have a standard, not a standard rim, but a standard design, or standard areas where you can't make modifications. But it's definitely an area that's being watched at quite closely by the FIA.